Hi, I'm Ron Anderson. Kristin is my daughter. She bought a 40-foot Hunter sailboat, and I am helping her go over everything on the boat, and we're trying to clean it up.
This isn't really the way to do it, he says. Oh, that's not gonna work. Oh, so there's a key for that.
Yeah.
You know, you could have just told me that.
Well,
I get the feeling that you would like to do it yourself.
no.
I get the feeling that you want to do it.
I have other jobs.
A
I'd love
bit.
to do this.
A
I
little
dreamt
bit.
about it.
You dreamt about
You
it.
gotta get rid of that water,
Yeah.
or put something
This is
over
for all
it.
the pieces.
Yeah. You need a piece of plastic, because you're gonna spray that with cleaner and turpentine or some kind of a cleaner for greasy motor parts, right? So you're gonna clean all
Honestly,
this
I
stuff
was
up.
just gonna screw it on tighter. I wasn't doing any of that.
No, you gotta grease this and shine it.
Alright.
Shine it. Make all the metal shine. Go ahead and take that off.
This whole thing falls gorgeous. That's the problem. It's all greasy and, yeah. Turn it while you're doing it. It's wire. I didn't take it off. In the screen of the wheel. That's what. In the screen. You're getting it off. I'm not calling you nothing. Don't let it hit me in the nose. Okay, now, move it up and down. Up and down, move it. You rock it a little bit as you're going. Lay it up.
It's pretty dirty.
Yeah.
Now I can see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I need a screwdriver to unscrew this bit.
Yeah. Number 4, Phillips. Frozen. That's my little guy watching every move.
Alright.
So, good morning. We're gonna take apart this Maxwell 22 winch that came off the boat yesterday. And we are gonna lay these parts out on the board. As you can see, this needs to be cleaned. I'll bring it into the light here so you can get a good perspective. The gears are corroded with, or caked on, I'm guessing is dried out oil, or grease rather. So these gears need to be cleaned, and this right here is actually greased, but it's dirty. It needs to be cleaned. All these parts. So I'm going to use paraffin and kerosene, and I have a little chip brush that I'm going to use to scrub the parts. And for harder places or for stubborn dirt, I have these two little brushes. So I'm going to start with disassembling all the gears and lay them out. So we can reassemble it in kind of a correct manner. I'm putting these in order that they came off, so I can reverse that. These clutches and this gear right here on the bottom. Yeah. And that's the end of that shaft. Now we're going to go to this shaft here. And that's all there is on this shaft. And then the main one, we'll start with this gear right here, right here. Interesting little springs in there. This is the first time I've done this, so I'm a little green at it. So now this is the big outside of the bearing. The first part was this one. This is the locking mechanism. Then this goes on. Then this race goes on. And this washer goes on. And then if we can we have to push this bearing out, and this one, and these parts right here. So, and then there's another race in here. So I think we're pretty much, there's a green grease in here. I'm suspecting that's waterproof grease. So, and then we have this sleeve. Now, I suspect that groove in here is to help lubricate it, but it's also split, so you can open it up and slide it off. It's trapped in this little groove here. There's a recess. So that little recess, we're gonna move that off. And that is it. We have all the bearings off. There's nothing left inside. Okay. What I'm doing here is cleaning the different components of this winch. And the only way to do it is take it apart completely. Every part has to be inspected. Every part has to be cleaned thoroughly and inspected to ascertain whether or not it's fit for service. What I did is I laid a little diagram out on this cardboard. The cardboard will help absorb any grease cleaner that I have. It's clean station, and what we're going to do is we're going to follow the diagram. This is the first thing I took off. I removed from this shaft right here, so it's easy to reassemble. It's hard for me to remember what I took off this thing. 10 minutes from now, I have no idea what these parts, how do they go in. So the diagram helps me, guides me to put this back together again. We're gonna start with the closest thing to me, and we're gonna start cleaning these gears and lay them back down, and then we're gonna dry them all and clean them, inspect it. So I'm gonna take this paraffin and just drop it right in there and squish it around, and you see this paraffin is gonna get, this cleaner should get black after a while. This is a mild cleaner. This isn't what I prefer, but this is what they recommend, cleaning these parts off. These should be stainless steel. You can't tell right now because they're so dirty. But in the instruction manual, it said they were all stainless steel. So we're gonna find out. So that isn't coming off very easily. And there's springs in there that looks like they're compressed. So I should remove those springs. Let's see. I need a little pick to get those out. So, to the surgeon's tool. Yeah. Yeah, we'll just drop those right in there in the fluid. Yeah, that's good. Now, we're going to take a stiffer brush. That's pretty soft, this brush. We're going to go with a stiffer brush and kind of clean. I have one stiffer brush that I can use if this isn't adequate. I'm pulling this toward me as I'm pressing down so I don't splatter everywhere. It's going against the glove in my hand. I would prefer to use a stiffer brush on this, but this is a gentle cleaning, a thorough cleaning, but gentle. See, the gear, the gear, when they mesh, the gears go in so deep when they mesh. And if you have that gullet filled with debris, it'll be stiff, very stiff to turn. So you want to clean right to the bottom of the gear. I'm using a steel brush here to try and get in there. I'm going to move to a different tool to try and get that out. It's not coming out very easily. It's been in there for a long time. So I need a plastic scraper to get in there. We are using this little screwdriver It fits in here very nicely. And we're just using very light pressure to remove debris that's really stuck in here. So I'm going to rinse this off one more time. And see if what is actually left in here. I'm going very lightly, like a dentist would do, cleaning your teeth. Because I don't want to scratch the metal. Even though it's pretty hard. Pretty hard. Okay. Now, I'm going to rinse it. So, I think we're almost done with this one. If this only took an hour to do, we have all day to spend here. All day. Now, I'll put that right there. Now, if you notice, there are holes in there. When I dry this out, I'll inspect those holes before I put the springs back in. The springs are in the bucket right now. So I'm going to leave them soak. Now the next part. This is a clutch, one direction cog. When you turn it this way, it slides, it's spring loaded, it slides. And when you turn it this way, it locks. So, looks like it's worn just a little bit. These high spots are worn a little bit. But we'll see after I clean it what it looks like. See those dark spots? That is dirt. I need to get that off of there. And it's rather sticky. It's like glue on there. It's not coming off very easily. So this is time consuming, but well worth it. When this goes back together again, won't stick. It'll slide the way it's supposed to. The way it's intended and designed to work. Can't work very well with this sticky mess in it. these parts are stamped A. So they go into a certain place. And as you can see, compared to what it was, these parts are Bristol. Now we're moving toward the center here, and we have another very dirty gear. You can see where the gears mesh. You can see where the gear ended here, and this was a point of contact. Not the whole gear, but just this part of the gear made contact up to that point. That's why it's caked on with this crud right here. But we're going to remove that right now. Just for fun, I'm going to take this little magnet and fish for the springs that are in this fluid, cleaning fluid, and I can't see them anymore. So I'm going to fish for them. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to put the magnet right against the plastic here. Hopefully it pulls the springs right up into out of the fluid. That's kind of a fun little thing. See the springs right here? And we can put that on they've been soaking for a while. So I suspect they're pretty clean. I'm going to take this gear out. It's ready to be cleaned. And I'm going to fish. There should be 2 more in there. So what do we have here? 2 more. 2 more springs. Kind of stuck together. But that's what we want. Okay. That was easy. So I love doing stuff like that. Makes it easier. So we're going to clean this gear off now. It's been soaking for a little while, which is a good process to take. Soak them for a little while. Do something else while it's soaking. So here we go. We're going to clean this up. I have used a steel brush, wire brush, on these gears because the dirt is so embedded on there and dried out and stuck on there. It's hard to get in all the way, but I have, as you can see, I have shined the surface of the outer part of the gear pretty good. So now I'm gonna go in here and just make sure the lower gutlet of these gears are cleaned out of debris. And as before I mentioned, I am not pressing down. I'm just wiping this little tool across the gutlet, and I'm hoping that it will let me know if it finds something rather sticky, and I'll clean that off. when I hit something, I feel it. And it's just a matter of working the tool back and forth and cleaning out anything that's in there. I'm going to use a softer brush in a minute to clean any debris that's just on the surface in here that's loose. That one was stuck. I should have been a dentist. I could go after that little cavity. These are going to be so happy when they're cleaned up. It's like when you sleep all night and you brush your teeth first thing in the morning. How happy your mouth is. Okay, now I'm going to use a softer brush just to make sure that we got everything out of there. If I had an air compressor, I would blow these off with air. That would be a nicer way to get the debris, wet debris off. So now we've finished that row. Now we're going to the next row. That row is done. Now we're gonna start from the outside and work our way in. That's a friendly little gear. It'll be so happy when it's clean. That spleen inside looks, we'll get to that. That spleen right inside there goes right here on this shaft. That's called a spleen. So, or spline. And it's pretty strong. So, in it goes. In it goes. See those little springs? They were so caked with grease, they couldn't even function. Gear right here. That's a nice gear. I have pretty much cleaned it up. And I'm going to use the soft brush to wipe it off. It's yeah. So we have a little pile of dirt right here. So we'll get that out. And it'll be clean. Gives room for this room that I'm making on the bottom of these gears will hold spanking new grease. So it'll be clean as a whistle. It'll be this old grease that cakes on there and dries out. Doesn't lubricate anymore because it's dried out. So we don't want that. We want fresh grease that has lubricating qualities. is allowed to lubricate because it isn't trapped or hardened up or solidified, or however you say that. So all these surfaces are clean. I'll rinse this off in my dirty cleaner and wipe those gullets out. Make sure I get all of it out of there. I can't wait to haul you up to the top of the mast once this is put together. Of course, we're going to have jam cleats on the end of the rope. We're going to jam it down in case this thing, you know, doesn't work that well. Put a leg lock around the mast. Yeah, so there you go. There's a nice clean gear. It's all I'm going to dry this stuff out and grease it. So that goes right here. So I notice that I have a little, my schematic is working pretty good. I know where the parts go. And by the way, I cleaned out the holes for the springs. I cleaned the springs and I shot DW40 to clean the holes out. I put the DW40 right in the hole without the spring in there and cleaned out the oil and debris inside the holes. So the holes are clean. So that's important. So the spring doesn't get compressed and stay that way. You want the clean shaft for the, want everything clean. This is clean. This rollers roll nice. I'm gonna clean this one more time to make sure there's no dirt in there. So when this turns, it turns beautifully. So we'll clean that up one last time. All of this stuff is gonna get DW40 cleaning, and I'm gonna use paper towels to dry it all before we assemble it. So we have the sleeve all cleaned off, and we have to clean this. Look at how dirty that is. The shaft where the bearings ride are need to be cleaned, and this raceway for the bearings needs to be polished up. So we're gonna work on that right now. We're gonna move to this shaft, main part of the winch, and this comes off first, and then the washer comes last. So we're gonna leave that on there, and I'm gonna clean this part. That's a thrust bearing. So we're gonna let that soak. We might as well put this in some cleaner. Let it soak in there. I think this will be very nice when it's, you can see the little hole in the end. That's where this was chucked up in a lathe when they turned this all down. That's the center. That's where the lathe point went into that, and it was turned. They had some fitting that chewed up, or the chuck went around here. So, 'cause, 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 ' when they made this, they had all the tolerances and the machine shop. You can have another one made if you need to, or just buy the part and it'll be done for you. Well, we have almost all of this winch done. There's only a few parts left. So I'm going to show you what I did. I'm focused on cleaning stuff. See how much grease I've got off this in dirt? Look at that bucket. That is nasty. That is nasty. I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's pretty nasty in here. You can't see anything in the fluid at all because it's so dirty. So what we're going to do now is finish cleaning these thrust bearings. That's the bearing that everything rests up against. And it's not really a bearing, it's a little sleeve. It's made out of self-lubricating plastic. It doesn't look like an alloy. I'm not sure what it is, but I can certainly check and make sure it's not magnetic. Not magnetic. So I believe this is plastic, self-lubricating plastic. And then we have the shaft itself. That doesn't look too bad. What we're going to do is dry this off and make sure it's suitable to reassemble. Maybe I'll polish it up a little bit. You don't want to polish it up too much. These tolerances in here are crucial to the bearings, and the gears all have to fit in these machined spaces are exactly to the thousandths. So by polishing it, you reduce that dimension and it becomes sloppy in there. You don't want that. So you want to keep these dimensions clean as best you can, and we can take this fluting and clean those splines out a little bit. That's easy. But I'm going to leave all this the way it is. Little coat of grease and it'll be great. That's for the crank, to crank it. We have all this cleaned up now, and we're gonna assemble it. We're gonna put light grease on here, and that's too much. Tapering out the grease in the brush. Now, we're gonna put light grease on everything here. Kind of after I cleaned it, it's kind of crazy to put the grease back on it again. I think that piece is good to go. Now we're going to work on all these parts. I'm going to put light grease, light coat inside here. This is where the bearings are going to go. And so now I'm going to start putting the parts inside. I'm going to go with the bearings that go on the end of this shaft. And you don't need a lot of grease, but you have to have some. So that's why I'm wearing these gloves to spread the grease and turn the rollers at the same time. Make sure this is lubricated. This part here. We're going to put this in first. That's the holds the race of bearings. And then we're going to do the same to the shaft here, the bearing. There it is. We're going to put, let's say, we're going to put this on first, then this. Let's see how that looks if we turn it over. One more part, this little boogie here. So this is going to go inside here, believe it or not. Gets pressed in there. There it goes. Now the bearings roll on that steel ring. Now we're going to take this bearing and put it right inside here. That bearing goes right there. Doesn't that look pretty? Very nice. Now this shaft that holds all this stuff is going to go in here. It's going to go in this way, actually. Like that. So then we build the gears up. Let's see if I can get that back in there again. I kind of knocked that out when it's a tight fit. It's all these things are machined to work in close tolerance. So let's see if I can turn this in. It should go right in there. My stomach. Yeah. There. Almost. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to push this in. And then I'm going to lower it onto the bearing. There we go. Okay. Now that feels beautiful. Feels nice and clean. Doesn't feel like there's any sand in it. Like before, you couldn't turn it because of the dirt in here. See how nice this turns? It turns without any sand in it. Like before, there was so much grit inside. Now it's nice and smooth, very smooth. So Now, we're going to put this gear with the springs in. Look how nice that is. The springs are clean. There's nothing in the holes. And I have light grease on here. Very light. Maybe I'll put even lighter grease on there. That's okay. We're gonna figure out how to get this in here. This has got to come up in order to put that in. Now, there we go. The bearing is hanging up. Yeah, let's see if I can get that. I gotta push the bearing in there like I had before. Yeah, that little bearing is very sensitive, tight fit. Yeah. Let me put this down for a second. Yeah. Well, we're going to have to do it. We're going to have to make that all happen with this on here. This has got to go down all the way. Yeah. Nice. Nice. Now it's all the way down. Now, what we're going to do is put in the next part, which is a clutch. This is clutch C. There's a mark on the back of it. It says C. This way, it says C on the back of these. They're stamped in. When you put this on a center spindle, it makes the gears, when you crank it, when you crank the lever, the gears go, the casing goes clockwise. You can actually take these two gears, two clutches, and because they're marked A on the back, they're stamped with an A, you can reverse these and the handle will go in the opposite direction. So it's reversible. That's kind of cool, I thought. But we're going to leave it as it was and lightly grease all of this. Now, this is the last gear that goes on here. Now, you see one side has got the cutout in it that locks into the cutout on the clutch gear. So, yeah, look at that. That's pretty. Look at how nice the mesh. We have this gear to put on. See the wear spot? That goes down. That goes down. Down there. And locks in. Now, we have to put in the clutch on here. The clutch. Yeah. That locks right in there. Very nice. Okay, now we gotta get these springs into the holes. Put a little bit of grease in the gears themselves. Okay, now the springs. I have this upside down. Right there. Yeah. Nice. Now, I'm going to take this last clutch off. I think it's probably easier to compress the springs because I'm going to turn this thing upside down and I don't want to lose the springs. So, if I do it this way, my goodness. I can take that off, get it out of the way for a second, and put that right down on there. And put this back in. Line these up there. That's the no parts left over. Isn't that exciting? That's very exciting. Can't wait to do the next one. I'm gonna grab the base. Now, the best way to assemble it, I have to put a little grease on this bearing. It goes right here. That's the main bearing. And then we can put this right here, and that holds everything together while we take extra energy to clean the threads with a wire brush. So this should go together like excellent. Yeah. Lubricate the screwdriver a little bit. Look at that. Nice. I couldn't even get these out without great force before. Now they're going beautiful. I'm going to put a little Loctite on these later. Put this on. The main bearing. Main bearing. I'm going to grease all of this. And then the hub, which I have a little tiny bit of work to do. Polishing these gears up. The main hub goes on here. And then we put this it's a tight fit, and then we put the locking device on here. Now I still have to take this apart and grease up the last parts I put on this main shaft. So I don't think it's a good idea to use a hammer and a screwdriver, but they don't really show you what kind of a tool to use to tighten this. I suspect a lot of people use a screwdriver and a couple of light taps with a hammer to lock this in. So that's the, listen how nice that sounds. That's it. Nice. That is nice. You know that's working nice. That was nothing. Next.
Do you have a wrench?
Yeah. Let me see you now. You just go like that, but you're gonna have to put your finger behind it. Okay? Ready?
Yeah. Yep. Keep going.
Is it going in?
Yep.